All right, today I am joined by Craig Duran, someone who I would love to model my business after if I were starting over. Out of Panama City Beach, we're specifically going to talk about geographical farming, how to understand which farms might make the most sense, how to communicate in a way that gets you consistent business, and I know you're going to get a ton of value out of this. All right, Craig, this is something that I know people can get some value out of. I have said this before, and not just because you're my boy, but the way that you built your business, if I were redesigning my personal sales business, I would model it right after the way you've done it, because you've done it in a way where you are designing it to live your life and not just live your business, and you've done that through listings. Specifically, what I want to talk about today is the geographical farming, because that's been that. Why don't you give people a little bit of history, kind of a view, and kind of how you got started and what your business looks like today?
Wow. There's a lot there. Started 2003. I think I was licensed March of 2003. I was playing music professionally before that, working a little bit in the golf shop in the daytime, and decided I wanted to grow up, I guess. But licensed in 2003, 2004 and 2005 were upon us pretty quickly, and I did pretty well, relatively speaking, for someone who was new to the business. So many people did well in 2004 and 5 here, and so I thought I was in good shape. I probably made some mistakes throughout in business and in personal investing and all those things, because you did so well so fast. So 2008-9 hit, and I had to completely reevaluate what I was doing. I think one of those years I had 5 closings. I wasn't running a business. I didn't have the skill set to really help people. And a nod to my mom had retired. I don't know if you knew this or not. Mm-hmm. My mom had retired, had a career in foundation work, and saw or heard anecdotally from me about how well 2004, 2005 were going. And I said, "Oh, Mom, with all the people you know, you just be a phone call. You should just get into real estate. It would be so easy," because right. And so she did, and she hated it. She didn't like the paperwork. I think she probably could have done well with it if she wanted to, but it wasn't her calling. But there was a coach came, and a national guy was going around touring the country and came and spoke at an office meeting. And this was now this was probably 2009. This is well into probably the lowest point in my career in life. And she's just hearing this from afar. Here's the coach talk, who was excellent, polished. She calls and says, "Hey, have you ever thought about coaching?" I said, "No." And coaching was pretty new back then, newish. She says, "Well, I want to give you 3 months of coaching if you want it." And I was like, "I'll try anything," because I probably wouldn't. I was probably on my way out of the business. So she gifted me 3 months of Bill Fields. Out of St. Petersburg, and we still work with each other to this day once a week, talking about things. But Bill pretty early helped me develop some of the basic skills you need to help people buy and sell real estate. He also made it clear of what business we're in. He calls it, we're in the people finding business. We need to find people to help buy and sell real estate. And he gave me a lot of ideas that all the trainers out there have been giving for decades. You know, there are FSBOs, there's expireds, there's all these things. And one of the things he encouraged me to do pretty early was try farming. And I think I had tried some of those other things, and it didn't work for me. I wasn't passionate about it. I was never going to be the guy that just sat there and made phone calls. Right. It wasn't my style. I couldn't find a way to make that make sense to me. So I tried farming. I wrote a letter. I picked a condominium, Gulfront condo farm. The office that I was officing in there for 15 years, but at the time my office was on site. So I said, well, if I want to farm, let's start there. That makes a lot of sense. I probably got lucky because I think within the first letter or two, I had a listing out of it. And the business had a couple years of really nothing. And so I thought it was that easy, right? You know, hey, write a letter, get a listing, write a letter, get a, you know. And it wasn't, but that's where it started. One farm on Gulf Front condo farm that was very much a vacation rental product. Had some success there. I think within the first year or two, added a second farm that was geographically very close to the office, but was traditional residential. The idea being to diversify a little bit. And then it's just gone from there. I don't think I've stopped farming since then. We're running 12 or 13 farms now. Really the majority of the business is just marketing to sellers. Farming to me is just a component of that.
Correct, yeah. What I like about this too is to give people encouragement is you didn't start out with 12 or 13. This is an evolution, and we're going to talk about specifically the strategies that you're doing where you're adding one, maybe two a year as it goes, and maybe rotating some out. So we're going to give you very specific strategies that Craig's doing because he mentioned it just briefly, but you're running a business. And you know, when you're running a business the way that you do, it is built on results and tracking those results and seeing what those are. Let's talk about it at the beginning of the year because I know you evaluate each of them every year, but you add some to test every year. What do you look at when you look at to consider a farm? If somebody's out there and they're considering starting, what are kind of the key factors you look at to decide if one makes sense to you?
That's changed over time. Early on, I probably picked the first farm again just because it made sense because I was on site. I thought there was a very real perception from owners that the office on site was the one who had to sell. The buyers would call the one that's on site, which I think that still exists. The second farm was strategic to diversify the product that we were going to work with. And from there, I don't remember the exact order of things. I think I had a lot of success in the Gulf Front farm, and so decided, well, let's pick another Gulf Front farm. And I picked, I just started, especially back then, it was geographically for a few reasons. I wanted something close to the office to be able to service listings easier, to go, you know, appointments, everything about it would be easier if it was close. I'd also think even still today in a digital world that very much applies, that people assume that, oh, if you're the agent that sells in this neighborhood, or if you sold one house in this neighborhood, or you sold one condo in this building or whatever, that you're the agent that does that. And we know there's certainly agents who focus and are experts in areas for sure. That's what farming is. But I was amazed early on to find out it really wasn't about that. It was just the consistent messaging. But sorry, tangent. It was strategically, it was that this Gulf Front condo was working, so I did another Gulf Front condo. I think I started picking the ones I liked. I picked the ones that were similar to this one because the same type of buyer that would be calling on this would be calling on this. For us here locally, we had Pier Park, I think, was coming in. A brand new commercial center for our area was here. This farm was very close to that, so I just started, the first 3 or 4 or 5 from there were all just the Gulf Front condos, because then I looked at it, instead of just one farm here, this became the farm.
Right.
But same idea, just consistent messaging from there.
Yeah, and now you said that's kind of changed. Obviously, what does that look like now? If somebody's out there and they're considering a farm, what are some of the factors for them to look at?
Yeah, a few things on that. I used to, Jacob and I have talked a lot about this. Jacob's 32 now. He's worked with me for, I think he's in his 7th year. And a lot, especially early on, he talked about the challenges or the resistance of a younger person maybe working with someone either older or someone with really, really high net worth. And I disagreed with him to a point on that, but I think it's a matter of what you may be ready for. And I would like, we just added, after all these years, very recently, Gulf front detached single family and Gulf front attached, high, more expensive real estate for the first time really in the last couple of years, which I hadn't been doing for a long time. And I don't know that I thought I was ready for it. I probably was. Now the choice is really what I want to do because I'm in the position to do that. I think when I'm first starting, I would want to be as strategic as I could about the analytics. Is there an agent that already dominates? If that's the case, I'm not afraid of the competition if I'm an agent going in there, if it's a place I want to be, but you want to be aware of that. Look at it, all these things that are going to matter and affect whether you're successful or not. Do you like the product? Are you finding something that you like and that you care about? It's easier to talk to people and help people when it's something that you really like. I still think geography has something to do with it, and I do think maybe it's a stretch, but I do think wherever you are in your career as an agent, maybe even where you are in life, and the kinds of conversations you have with the owners of that type of product, you may have some more success. I don't think necessarily guarantees it one way or the other, but something to think about. If you're selling a farm of traditional first-time homebuyer properties and you're 30 years old, that may be a really good fit for you because you're going to be in conversations with people who are very much like you.
Right.
Just an idea, but all the basic metrics, which, for review, how many units, if you want to look at it that way, are selling per year. What's the average price point? Do some simple math. If there's, for talking points, if there's 10 units selling per year, look at last year, look at the last 3 years, maybe look at the last 5 or 10 years because the last couple years have been pretty unique. If you look at the COVID years, you wouldn't want to hang your hat on that. So look, how many units are selling per year? I would look at that a few different ways, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 years, so I could get a feel for what the number really might look like. What's the average commission going to be off of that? You need to see what kind of revenue your business is going to generate from that. 10 houses sell, 10 condos sell in a year, and you're going to make X. You have that number. You'd like to try to get 10% market share in your first year-ish if you can. So if you can accomplish that, what does that revenue look like, and is that worth going into that? There are a lot of the same activities done at higher price points as there are at lower price points. A lot of times higher price points can be more competitive. Some agents may not be ready for that market.
Right.
So what market are you ready for? And you're running a business, so what else may affect the sales? You do all this work historically on what has been selling. What's your best guess of projecting over the next year or two what sales will look like? Mm-hmm. You may get into a situation in a neighborhood that really is set to take off for whatever reason in sales, have higher turnover than normal or less turnover than normal. Right. And so you've got to, you're making business decisions on all of that.
Yeah. When we're talking about that stuff too, obviously, is there a number? I've always said, is there a multiple that you're wanting to project that you anticipate? Obviously, we never can predict because some will outperform, some will underperform. But for instance, if we can see that let's just make it easy. If there's 500 units in there, and whatever number you figure, I try to figure about $2 per house per month is what I try to do, or a unit per month on a budgeting standpoint from that perspective. So if we're looking at that, do we have, and like you said, let's just say there's a 8% turnover is 40 houses selling in that. I'm just using that. Obviously, that's a little high for right now. But if we're using standard numbers, taking 10% of that, 4 units, just to make the numbers easy, does it positive cash flow? What is the multiple that you're looking at? You evaluate all of those things. Is there a number that you figure as far as budgeting wise of what your expense will be, and what does that look like, and do you factor those things in?
Honestly, I did a lot more earlier in the process when we probably had be a little more careful.
Yeah.
It's a little more of an artsy approach right now. Maybe I guess to answer that, I'm not as worried about the multiplier ongoing anymore. Like I used to very much be obsessed with that. We talked a lot about, if you're going to invest in something, we're trying to get a 10x return.
Right.
That was the number. If we could get into a situation in the farm and it was a 10x return, wow, you feel pretty good about that investment. And that was attainable. Things change every year. There's ebbs and flows in the market. There's ebbs and flows in your execution. There's ebbs and flows in all of it.
Yeah.
And there's ebbs and flows of the market's perception of you in all these things. And so to me, it's being aware of that I don't have to be so perfect and control every single little aspect of it anymore. I would rather just get it, make sure we're doing something consistently and not let the pursuit for perfection get in the way of being just pretty good at something.
Yeah.
So I glance at the numbers now. Because we do it all the time, I have a feel for how it's going regularly. And then I glance at the numbers and spend some time with them at the end of the year. I still have everything on a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet, it's a little manual to put all the data into it and to do some of the calculations. I could probably do it a lot faster with AI. I could probably, and just have someone hand me the report. But I actually like the legwork or the exercise of doing and plugging in all the little cells to really kind of, sit with it for a minute. And at the end of that, you really I look at it and it feels good to see one farm be at, one year, I think we had like 405% return on investment or something silly. And plenty of zeros sometimes. But to look and to put it all together and look and see what the investment looks like. There have been a few years recently where we weren't at 10, and I looked at the percentage, but then I also looked at the dollar amount of the investment and the dollar amount of and you're like,
yeah,
yeah. I'm not a publicly traded company looking to try to grow. I think that recently, I felt like that got in the way of what I was trying to do with helping people. When we were going from, I don't remember the numbers, but it's at some point, having done it long enough, we're trying to be as good as we can at the business and helping people. And so if some years the market's up, some years the market's down, certainly we're running a business and trying to do as well with that as we can. But the focus for me recently has been keep all those things going because they work. I mean, working really well right now. Inventories are up,
right.
So mine's up.
Yeah.
But it's more about the consistent execution to let people know we're here.
Yeah.
Bill talks a lot about when he's on stage. There's a room and he says, okay, how many of you, did you see the gas station on the corner? And everyone in the room, yeah. How many of you stopped to get gas on the way here today? And the whole room saw the gas station, but 2 people stopped for gas. That's all farming is, which is an extension of marketing. So if we can just continue to make sure that all the lights are on the billboard and it's clear and easy to read and understand, then to me, I'm more concerned with that, and that ends up taking care of all this stuff.
Yeah. So what are those monthly, you're using direct mail. Let's start with direct mail because I think it's foundational for all of this. What are the types of pieces that you're sending? Is it just market updates, or what else are you sending?
I still think the message that resonates the most, and it goes back to earlier of, did you sell something?
Right.
I think some people are some owners are very experienced at real estate. Some people will do this once or twice in their life, and everywhere in between, and also have a level of understanding from here to here. So the idea that you just sold something close to them, to me, is the overarching still best message we can send. So I expand on that. If instead of having, we try to do that inside of any given farm, I've played around with trying to, since I do a lot of condos, trying to send the same message to all the condos and make it a little generic for condos instead of building by building, and didn't think it was as effective, because I think if you own here, you only want to know what's going on in here.
Right.
If you own here, you only want to know what's going on here. So the idea that you sell something, so if you ever are fortunate enough to have that message to send, I think that's the most important one. I think another one that's important is keeping people updated. I think a core of the messaging is trying to be informative, where 10 years ago we were maybe trying to do a lot of clicking with forms and fill out your information, give me your information before I give you anything. Mine's always, I never did too much of that. Mine's always been, hey, here's the information.
Yeah.
Especially now, it's all out there.
Right.
To me, I think we're just curating it for people and helping you help explain it to you and help you understand what all this information is and make some sense of it. So informing people, and then also probably as strong of a message as the sold is when you have something for sale, well, your job is to market that for sale. So do as good of a job in the pieces of showing people there that this is for sale, because we know fundamentally people who own in a building may have a friend or family member who may want to buy one, or in a neighborhood, same idea. So we want to show off what we're doing, right, and we want to do that really well, hoping that, well, we're just trying to do that as good as we can. Right. And if we can be as good or that as most in the market or better, then all that sort of takes care of itself.
Yeah. All right, so we talked to, that's the direct mail piece. Obviously, digitally, having email addresses, you kind of mentioned that at one time you were gathering email addresses. Are you still gathering the email addresses for those groups? And if so, how is the messaging going out digitally to these?
Yeah, we try, over the last few years, we're trying to get people from the mail pieces to click and get you into the ecosystem. So, there's a website. We're using the website to, if we have something for sale, hey, here, QR code to see what it looks like. Here's our presentation of it. And maybe if you are thinking about selling and you see that, ooh, I want that one. Collecting email addresses too, text for whether it's e-alerts, setting you up, the idea of keeping someone informed. I think those, I thought it was genius. I think probably everybody does it, but I think it's one of the best tools to keep someone who owns real estate, if you're looking at it strictly from the value of it and how that works in your portfolio, to be able to be kept up to date regularly with what that's worth simply is, I think, a really nice, easy thing to provide people. So the idea of an e-alert going to someone, a lot of people want that. I don't do anything with, hey, do you want to be kept updated anytime something comes up for sale, goes under contract, or sells in your building, in your neighborhood? A lot of people, yeah, sure, give me that. And I try to stress, it's free, there's no obligation, and I mean that. So when they sign up, I almost try to, it's through text message, I almost try to sound like a bot. Okay, great, what's your email address? And people who would never give your email address before on a form or texting individually, if they want this thing, they're giving you the email address all day long. We really try, I don't want to abuse that. Right. I'm not gonna send out a 5 email cadence in a week of 1 story and 5 messages. I'm not gonna, you asked for this, we're gonna give you that. We're advertising that it's free and there's no obligation, then that's what we're going to give you. And I really believe it's a tool that can help you. Now it has our branding on it, right, so hopefully now if you open it, now you're dealing with someone who is giving you good information, and this is the person who's providing the excellent tool. So when you do have the need, when you do drive by and need gas, maybe we'll get the phone call.
Right, yeah. All right, so we've chosen a farm. We've started with the direct mail pieces, obviously the digital side of that. You did a lot of things where you were doing the overviews, video overviews for each of the communities. How has that played out, and what is that? Are you still doing that?
Yeah, it's an extension of, there's only so much I think you can really say about the market in a postcard.
Right.
or a letter or a flyer, whatever you want to send. If you're going to work with me, then I want you to understand how I work and how I think. And so I need to give you that. I can't just write that in 2 sentences or show you a chart of, you and I look at sales volumes down 29%, and we know what that means. Or, the easy one, prices are trending one way or the other. Yeah, I think a lot of people understand that generally, but what we need to explain this to people to help people understand what it means to their life. And so the video, just a simple video update, sharing your screen. Like now, I always over-explain and talk way too much, but and I'm trying to throttle that back. But it's as simple as, here's the information I see. I think for a long time, I was speaking directly to owners. If I own in that building or I own in that neighborhood, this is what I would want to know about what's going on there from a real estate values perspective, from a real estate market perspective. That's it. Your situation is different than your situation is different than your situation. This news is going to be great for you and terrible for you. I just want to give you the information that if you own this thing, this is what I'd want you to know. So I love months of inventory. I think it's a very simplistic way to, it's a great place to start. And when you can show, especially recently, very dramatic lines once in 10 or 12 year numbers, right, that gets really easy to talk about the message. And when nobody has a crystal ball, but when you can start to see clear trends, I would want to know about that if I own real estate. So simple video. I mean for them to be simple. Sometimes they're 3 to 5 minutes. Sometimes they're 5 to 8 minutes. Plenty of them are 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah. And I remember 5-8 years ago, whenever it was, everyone was telling you, no, you can't have a video longer than 3 minutes. You can't have. People were watching them until the end. Right. And it's going directly to. Got a place on the website where they can go and see that. Email that to them. But then that's it. No, I don't want to abuse the email. I don't want to reach out, hey, you signed up, hey, and then call. I don't do any of that. I just present everything to you. Here's what we do for marketing. Here's our ecosystem. Check it out. And then when it's time, we get the call a lot. And we get the call. I think all that work ends up in a lot of, hey, send me the paperwork. Right. There's still plenty of listing, presentation, consultation, whatever you want to call it. But hey, we followed. They know you. Right. 2, 3, 4, 5 years later. Right. So anyway. Yeah. Hey, listen. All of the farms don't always work. Obviously, we can do our best things. So I know at the end of every year, you kind of evaluate what has performed. What are you going to continue? I think one of the biggest mistakes some people make is that they keep riding a dead horse, I guess you could say. And so how do you decide which ones to let go and move in a different direction? That's hard for me. It's hard because I've had years of 0, 0, 0 in year 3 when, maybe plenty of people would have cut after year 1. But when you're running more than one, it's easy to, when the whole return's there, it's easy to give it, one more year, because I've had a couple times where it's been 0 for 3 years and the 4th year was a gangbuster. Because if we use farming, the analogy of a farm is that, it's different. Right. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get away from something when the more you have time and energy you have invested in it. There are too many people, I think more and more people are even more hesitant to call the real estate office now. Maybe, with the recent changes, I don't think that helps people idea of wanting to call to chat and ask questions. So there are just always people hovering, watching, reading emails, looking at your website that you don't ever hear about, and then it's, hey, I've been watching your stuff for 5 years. Or you walk in and there's a stack of postcards there. I've saved every one you sent, so some of it's faith. I've made mistakes and kept in some too long. I went away from one last year This year, what's on my mind, probably because I have so much inventory, and we added some more expensive stuff recently. It's going to be real easy this year to say, okay, we just don't need to make this investment anymore. It's a little. That's going to be easier this year to get away from a couple things.
Yeah.
And the type of work you do in some of the different situations of just like, okay, no, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do this.
Yeah.
And which was what I liked about it from the beginning, is that you're beginning to choose where and sort of how you want to work.
Yeah. Couple of takeaways as we wrap this up. One of the things I love is the way that you do kind of analyze. I like the idea of starting in your own backyard or somewhere where you can relate to the owners. Also identifying ones that have the best potential there. The consistency of messaging, and look, it starts, I agree, it starts with direct mail, starts with being active in the neighborhood, whatever that looks like for you. I mean, and then...
Yeah, there's so many ways to do it.
And then also, obviously, understanding that this is a process. This is, you may catch lightning in a bottle, but odds are this is going to take time. This is the thing. Look, I think in our business, we need to have specific strategies where we're eating, and then somewhere we're setting the table for the next meal. And this could be one where if you start, you're going to have to start the process, but you will consistently then build that business. Your business is a perfect example. I mean, the amount of business you do, the way you're able to control your life is directly proportional to the consistency that you've done now over years. And so I just want to encourage anybody, if you're out there and you're thinking about what is it that I can do to build a consistent business, man, I don't know anything you can do any better. And if you've got referrals heading towards Panama City Beach, Craig Duran, Duran Group is who I would suggest. So with wrapping that up, anything else you want to add as we wrap up?
No, I think we talked a lot. I think the last thing I would say, especially with this change of in the commission stuff and with what we see sort of with the portal wars and everything else, and that's what I alluded to earlier, is that if you just focus on getting really good at your job and helping people, then the rest of the stuff takes care of itself.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, take care, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching the video. I specifically chose the video below for you because it builds on the one you just watched. I hope it's helpful, and I'll talk to you soon.